So, Bobby, what do you want to do after school? Bobby and I had been friends since pre-K, and we always hung out after school. We usually rode bikes or went fishing or did any number of other things, but Bobby had a weird look on his face today, and I suspected that today's activities might be a little out of the ordinary. He had been talking to some of the other kids at lunch, 5th graders, and God knows what they had told him. Many of them were the kind of boys to go off into the deep woods or explore the abandoned house on Cranmore Street, and I shuddered to think what sort of trouble they might get Bobby and I up to if he took them seriously. Well, Jesse, I think today we're going to the park. I looked at him funny. The park? That's a little babyish, isn't it? Maybe if we were going to ride the swings or something, but we're not going for that. That got me curious. Which park are we going to, Bobby? Bobby smiled, and it reminded me of the smiles of those 5th graders who sometimes try to get younger kids into trouble. We're going to the park over by the Drummond Apartments. I gasped. I knew exactly which park he was talking about, and he must have lost his mind. The Drummond apartment complex were a place that everybody had heard of. It was where the guys at the steel field lived when they were off shift, the place the log truck guys lived when they weren't driving big rigs, the kind of place that my dad said you could purchase some time with a woman if you couldn't get one of your own. My mom would have smacked him if she'd heard him talking like that, but it was just Dad, and sometimes he said things that he probably shouldn't have said around a child. Drummond Apartments were also next to the park that the city had closed after those 5 kids went missing. Everybody knew about the missing kids, the ones that had gone missing back in '98. Nobody was sure where they had gone, but everyone agreed that they'd been playing in the Drummond Park, a park at the edge of the woods. Other people said that now the park was haunted, and that if you went there at night, you could see ghost people at that park, as they played or did whatever it is that ghost people did. No one was sure if they were the missing kids or if they were just ghosts that had been brought about by all the sadness that had followed the place. But all the kids at school talked about them, and we all agreed that they probably existed. Why in the hell are we going there? I asked him. Because the big kids told me about how I could play hide and seek with them. That piqued my interest. What? Like playing hide and seek with ghost people? He smiled. Yup. They said if you go there in the afternoon, just as the sun's setting, you could call out to one of them by name and play hide and seek. It sounded pretty fun, so I figured we'd try it. Unless, that is, you're a baby. I bristled a little. I'm no baby. Good, he said. Then you won't mind if we play Nintendo at your house until the time comes. I almost laughed, thinking this was just some ploy to play my new game system. The N64 had just come out, and my aunt, whose husband was said to be richer than Creases, had gotten me a bunch of games for it. Bobby's family was not well off. I don't even think they had a TV, and he liked to come over and play games a lot. I didn't mind. Bobby was my friend, and friends shared, so when we sat down to a game of Mario Kart, I assumed that would be the last I'd hear about the Shadow Kids or anything like that. We'd play Mario Kart on my Nintendo for most of the afternoon, and as the sun continued to sink, I thought maybe he'd forgotten about it, and he'd remember that it was going to be dinner time soon and asked to stay. Instead, at about 5:30, he got up and told me it was time. Time for what? I asked. Time to go play some hide and seek, he said. I winced as I hit the pause button on the controller, honestly having forgotten about the whole thing. Come on, Bobby, let's just play some more Mario Kart and then eat dinner. We don't have to go all the way out there on a dare. I bet they're just messing with us anyway. Bobby was already heading out the door to my room, but he turned and looked back at me as I continued to beg him to call it off. I'm going with or without you. I want to see what's out there, and I'll remind you how much of a baby you are at school if you don't come with me. That pretty much settled it, and I hesitantly came with him as we went to the park to see what all the fuss was about. We got to the park about an hour before sunset, which would leave us just enough time to play a quick game and then head home before Mom started getting worried. If Mom had known where we were, she would have been worried anyway. We had both been told not to come here by our parents, and Bobby's mom would have had a bird if she had known he had gone anyway. I think all the adults in town thought the place was haunted as much as the kids did, though most of them were probably too adult to say as much. Even before the incident, the place had been creepy. The kids who played there, mostly being local ones that lived in the apartment complex. The other kids played at one of the other parks in the area, and it was well known that homeless people sometimes spent the night there. There were no homeless people there today, and as we came into the play area, I remembered thinking I was already seeing ghosts. It wasn't like the ghosts in the movies. They weren't wearing bed sheets or looking like zombies. It was more like moving TV static. As I watched, they were wavy images that walked around the little area, and they made my eyes hurt a little as I tried to focus on them. They were human-shaped, but definitely not human beings. It was like someone's shadow had gotten up and decided to amble around. No wonder there were so many rumors about there being ghosts here, especially with these things walking around. Okay, Bobby said, and he shook his arms like he was getting ready to perform a magic trick. The bigger kids say that all you have to do is call out to one of them by name, and they'll play hide and seek with you. You can't get caught, but if they can't find you in 60 seconds, then the game is over, and you have to start again. What happens if they catch you? I asked hesitantly. Bobby shrugged. They didn't say, but they made it sound bad. Probably best that they not catch you. That was far from reassuring, but Bobby didn't give me a lot of time to talk him out of it. He screwed his face up, like he was trying to remember something, and then he looked over at the weird ghost people and said a name that I was unfamiliar with. Lucius Ryder. I didn't know the boy, but I recognized the name. They had certainly said it enough times at the assemblies. They would read them out over and over again, like they thought that one of us might be able to identify them just because we heard the name for the 1,000th time. We were all nervous about what had happened, but none of us really knew what was expected of us at these assemblies. Did they think we'd just remember information all of a sudden? Fat chance of that. Most of us could barely remember what we had for breakfast that morning. One of the shadow people broke itself off from the rest and walked slowly towards us. Terry was looking at it as if he thought this was the coolest thing he'd ever seen. But I was very little pleased with the results. It had come a little too willingly, like it wanted us to call it. And I was no expert on ghosts, but I knew it usually wasn't a good idea to invite things in that wanted you to call them. Lucius Ryder, we challenge you to hide and seek. We hide, you seek. Do you accept? The ghost thing didn't nod, but it did sort of glitch forward and then straighten again. It lifted its hands to cover its lack of eyes as it began to resonate, its body pulsing outward. Bobby grabbed me by the arm and said we needed to hide. I didn't know how long we had, but one look at that thing told me I did not want to be found. We both tore off into the playground, and one look at the tube slide told me that was the place I wanted to be. Bobby kept moving after I broke off, and I got to the top of the tube just as the resonating sound ended. It was like an echo in a cave when it finally stops bouncing off the walls for longer than you expected. I figured it must mean that the ghost kid was done counting. I climbed into the tube, positioning my feet so that I'd stop myself halfway down, and tried to hold myself there so I wouldn't be seen. My arms and legs started to get tired pretty quickly, but I only had to do it for a minute, and I thought I'd probably be fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was counting in my head, pretty intent that this would be my first and last game. Bobby really should have told me the stakes before I agreed to do this, and as my arms shook a little, I heard something strange coming near the mouth of the slide. It was like TV static, or maybe that weird clicking sound you get from records, but it seemed to make me stiffen my arms a little more. I didn't want this thing to find me, and I hoped that Bobby had a pretty good hiding place. It moved away from the mouth of the tube and went along the side like it was looking for something. It probably hadn't thought to put itself in the middle of the tube, a position far too precarious, and I gritted my teeth as I continued to count. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I could feel the sweat running down my arms and legs, and my legs began to shake as we hit the midway point. I believed it had moved away, but I couldn't be sure. It was the scaredest I had ever been in my life, and I'd spent a lot of time staying awake and listening for monsters in the closet. This was different somehow, like a movie where the effects are a little too good. I could feel my arms starting to give out, but I wouldn't be much longer now. 60 seconds, and then I could run home with the knowledge to never come here ever again. 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. I was getting ready to slide down and make a run for it when I heard the sound again. It was coming around the side of the slide, getting much too close to the opening, and I was afraid I was about to get caught. What would happen if it found me? Would it hurt me? Would I join their little ghostly troop, or would it be something worse than that? I didn't know, and that made it even worse. The unknown was so much scarier than what you do know. And as the sound crept up the length of the tube, I thought I could almost see a shadow stretch out before the opening. 50. Something put a hand on the edge of the tube, its ghostly fingers clenching the rim. 52. Its shadow stretched out towards the mouth of the tube, the last light of day, sending it across the sand like a gantry. 55. My arms really began to shake now. I didn't think I could hold it much longer. 56. It was leaning down. I could see the top of its head as it made to peek into the tube. 58. I tried to shimmy myself farther back up the tube, but I was afraid that any noise or movement would give me away. It was too close. I had almost been home free, but as its lack of eyes found mine, it began to resonate again in that strange musical way. Then it melted into nothing, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I had made it all 60 seconds, and as I slid down the slide and felt my feet touch the ground, a deep sense of relief filled me. It was dark now. the sun having actually set, and I hightailed it home without a care for what might have happened to Bobby. He had gotten me into this mess. He could walk home by himself. When I got home, though, my mom was on the phone with his mom. She wanted to know if I'd seen Bobby, because he had never come home from school. I told Mom that I had been walking him home, but that we had parted ways a couple of blocks from the house. She conveyed that to his mom, and she hoped that he'd be seen soon. When the police called a few hours later to ask the same questions, I gave them the same answers. I was pretty sure that I knew what had gotten him. The ghost kids had found him, and he had suffered whatever punishment came with it. They never found him, never even found a trace of him, but sometimes when I drive past that park, I feel moved to go call his name and see if maybe he'd like to play a game of hide and seek. It would confirm what I suspect already, but I'm just not brave enough to go down there and play again. It's been 20 years. I'm still not brave enough to face Bobby for a game of hide and seek. Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.